we're gonna do it so early. I need a coffee, but I'll get some more later.
Your friend, she said, well, she said she don't need any more coffee. Because she said she don't need any more coffee.
Hi, Ophelia. How are you?
I'm okay, trying to stick to this script.
We survived the night. I only had half of it. I was driving. I'm a very responsible person.
I only had two because they were here for us.
You're full of
No more pennies in the cake.
Exactly.
That's what you say. Again.
That's the right answer.
Yeah.
Ready? All right, good morning. I am Dr. Anthony Mays, Superintendent of Austin ISD. First, before we jump into this, I'd like to recognize our trustees. Trustee Boswell, you switch sides on me. Trustee Zapata, Trustee Singh, and President Rodriguez. I want to thank you all for coming out this morning. Last night, Austin ISD Board of Trustees voted to put before voters $2.44 billion in the upcoming November 8th election. Today, I am at Travis College High School, one of the 8 high schools that will be modernized if voters approve the $2.44 billion bond proposal in November. Principal Posadas, who's standing over there in the back, will be happy to share more details with you later about how this would transform the educational experience for students at this school. First, I want to provide an overview of the projects included in this bond package. And then I'd ask Ed Ramos, our CFO, to explain the fiscal impact. And then we'd be happy to answer any questions. Safety is our top priority, and that is reflected in this bond. New secure entry vestibules for every school that does not already have one, new fencing, keys and locks, and modifying floor plan and older open concept campuses to include doors and walls. Equity is the priority of this bond. There's been an 11-month-long community-driven process with equity at the heart. Equity is defined by Dr. Holly as getting all the kids what they need. This bond directs more resources to Title I schools than any previous bond, both in total and by percentage. The reality is that the children who come from underserved communities have shown predictable achievement gaps. Our mission is to narrow those gaps, and investing more resources in these campuses helps us to get there. Our mission is to prepare every child every day, fixing critical deficiencies and making major investments at every middle and elementary school, improvements such as replacing aging HVAC, plumbing, and roofing systems that now drain our budget by millions of dollars every year, upgrade our athletic facilities at every comprehensive high school, new computers and tablets for students and teachers, and special education inclusion improvements. Finally, fiscal responsibility has been one of the primary drivers in developing this bond proposal. And for that, I'd like for our Chief Financial Officer, Ed Ramos, to speak more about the tax rate impact.
Thank you, Dr. Mays. The $2.44 billion proposal is the largest the district has ever put before voters, and we are acutely aware of that. For the past 2 years, the district has prioritized the district needs with an acute awareness of our responsibility to efficiently use every dollar of our operating budget. As a result, our school board passed a balanced budget this 22-23 school year. With Austin ISD now to give more than half of its property tax revenue it collects to the state for recapture, it is very difficult for the district to meet all the needs through its regular operating budget. Bond dollars allow us to pay for major capital improvements such as new schools and facility repairs. Because bond funding is not subject to the state's recapture formula, 100% of bond dollars will stay in Austin ISD for the benefit of our students and staff. To put it another way, when we pay for repairs out of our operating budget, we only spend 47 cents on the dollar worth of repairs for each taxpayer dollar. In comparison, we keep every cent of bond dollars. 100% of voter-approved bond dollars stay in Austin ISD, making those dollars go twice as far. Older buildings are more expensive to maintain, and Austin ISD has quite a few older facilities. For example, Travis Early College High School, the building we stand in today, was built in 1953. Many of the major investments proposed to fix critical deficiencies will save the district money long-term by lowering maintenance and operating costs and extending the useful life of our older facilities. For context, last year, the district spent $1.7 million to rent HVAC equipment with faulty systems. This amounts to the equivalent of 25 teacher salaries for the district. Using bond dollars to invest in permanent fixes frees up more of the district's limited operating budget for other critical needs, such as hiring and retaining our teachers and staff throughout the district. Every project included in the 2017 bond proposition has either been completed or is now underway, and we are proud of the district's ability to finish these projects within the budget despite the challenges of the current economic conditions. In the past 5 years, we have seen firsthand how the cost of everything from labor to materials to mechanical equipment has continued to escalate. If high levels of inflation persist, the cost of meeting the critical needs identified will only increase over time. At the current rate of inflation, a delay of just 1 year would increase costs by approximately $180 million, the equivalent of roughly 3 fully modernized and renovated elementary schools. As Dr. Mays mentioned, the proposed bond package would still allow Austin ISD to reduce our overall tax rate by 6.5 cents and an additional 3 cents next school year. If the voters approve this bond package, the district's proposed tax rate for 2023 would be the lowest tax rate in Austin ISD in over 21 years. It would also be the lowest tax rate among all Central Texas school districts that would be levied this current year and next year as well. President Rodriguez.
Good morning, Jeronimo Rodriguez. I serve our Board of Trustees as the President of the Board. Last night was a great example of our Board of Trustees, the Bond Steering Committee, the Long Range Planning Committee, and so many other dedicated community members and staff coming together and believing in our mission to provide the knowledge and skills for every single child to graduate college, career, and life ready. This bond is the most historic, equitable bond we've ever had in the history of the 140-year history of Austin ISD. And I want to thank in particular my colleagues on the board who are here with us today, who unanimously voted 9-0 to ensure that we double down on our community. As our Chief Financial Officer said, we have a $1.8 billion budget that's balanced. We pay $845 million in recapture dollars, and we're going to invest $2.44 billion in our kids, in our staff, in our teachers, in our community. The work, as I've learned from so many of you all up here, the work is never done. There is more work to do. So it would be remiss on me as I finish my comments that we have 88 days to the November 8th election, and we have a responsibility, we have a job to educate and ensure that all of our community understands what kind of investment we're making in ourselves, in our community, and in our students. Thank you.
Thank you all again for coming here today to learn about the 22 bond proposal. I also want to thank Principal Posadas, he's back here in the back, and the staff of Travis ECHS for hosting us during a very busy time as they prepare to welcome our students back. As I mentioned earlier, Travis Early College is one of the schools that will be fully modernized if voters pass the bond package. Principal Posadas will be leading tours for everyone interested to share more details about how the 2022 bond would impact the school and its students. I, along with Mr. Ramos, Austin ISD staff, Trustee Zapata, Trustee Boswell, Trustee Singh, and President Rodriguez will be available to answer any questions you may have. And again, we thank you all for joining us this morning.
Could you kind of explain a little bit about how much a homeowner would save? You said a lower tax rate. Could you give us the basis for presenting the numbers for like I'm at home, how much, you know?
So the simplest calculation, when you're looking at, let's say, a $500,000 home, the 1 cent debt service tax rate increase would be a $50 increase to the homeowner for the entire year. That's not taking into account the 40,000 homestead exemption that is now allowed versus the 25,000 homestead last year. And then that also doesn't factor in the lower tax rate that we will pass as a district. 6.5 cents this year, an additional 3 cents next school year.
Has there been a time frame developed for specifically the modernizations if it were to pass?
Hello, Matias Segura, Chief of Operations. So currently right now we're evaluating all of our schedules. We're trying to identify opportunities to move through the projects efficiently. As you know, for us, delivering schools in August is of utmost importance. And so what we're doing right now is evaluating all of our projects, identifying where we might have challenges regarding management and schedule on the labor market. So we'll develop a plan, we'll bring that to the board. The analysis is underway, but we'll take it to the board for consideration. And at that point, the board will also identify the procurement methodologies for each of those projects. So it's underway. We've had some adjustments over the last couple days, but we'll be presenting that in the next probably 2.5 weeks or so.
School bonds are normally associated with a growing district, but we've had the student population kind of leveling off. Talk about why we need this kind of money while the student population is leveling.
I can start, and then, of course, Mr. Matias can build on it. The opportunity to invest in our students is something that, regardless of how many students we have, we need to make, right? The students that we have within our schools currently deserve the modernized facilities, and we want to be able to provide the absolute best educational experience for all of our students. And so making this investment is really about that, regardless of the declining or growing enrollment. So.
Yeah, Dr. Mason, I think what I would add to that is, aging infrastructure costs money, a significant amount of money. And that's the same dollars that pay for teacher salaries and programming. And so no matter, what happens on an annual basis, what we know is that it's costing more, out of our general operating budget to pay for these facilities. And that's taken away from teacher salaries. That's taken away from programming. So for us, because we have the enrollment that we have, we need to become more efficient. And this allows us to do exactly that.
Can I just add one more thing? Because I think we as a board over the last 2.5 years have learned about safety, and we've learned probably more than we want to about health pandemics. Fully modernizing and modernizing schools will reduce the carbon footprint of our environmental impact, but it will also ensure that we have good air quality for all of our kids, no matter what part of the district they're in. And I think that's so important to ensure that we're investing again in ourselves and the health and safety of all of our children.
Can I
You
say?
mentioned it's safe. Oh,
Sure. You're right there.
So I think also that we have lost students because of the facilities. A lot of parents that I've talked to said, we want a clean, safe environment. And I truly believe that once we build our new campuses, they will come back. We need to have that kind of environment, a safe learning and great education experience for every student, and building and investing in our campuses in this bond is going to help build our district as well. Thank you.
And you guys did mention safety, so talk about how this is going to go toward improving safety for our students.
I'll start, yeah. So I think a large portion of the investment is, of course, in security vestibules. And so We know that some of our aging facilities do need modernizations in the way of protecting our principals, our teachers, our faculty and staff within those buildings from easy access or easy entry. And so continuing to grow that investment and modernize facilities in that way is going to be pretty important. I know that we've started some of that with the 2017 bond, and so this next bond will allow us to kind of continue on those efforts. And then I'll pass it on to
Yeah, I think Dr. Mays explained it well. I will say that, as you look through the bond package, you'll see line items for, locks and keys. And one of the things that's been challenging is changing all the locks at one time within an organization this big. That's millions of dollars. Think about fencing. Fencing on a, space by space isn't quite expensive, but given the scale, it does cost quite a bit, and we can't pay for that out of our general operating budget. Dr. Mays mentioned security vestibules. One of the things that's very important is, having a secure entrance, making sure that whoever's entering the school who is not part of the school must go through the administrative space, go through our Raptor system, and some of our facilities don't have that, and so we've invested in that way. And for our modernized facilities, when you build a facility that's intentional, that really embraces not only the needs of the community, but our design specifications around security, you can create something that is truly safe, performs very efficiently. And so when we think about security, we have those line items, but every modernized facility will be brought up to our education and security specifications. So this is very much a security bond program.
So speaking of security, we also speak to the fact the TA is requiring schools to do audits within their own schools of the outdoor doors and indoor doors. And could you kind of explain what you found after doing that audit here in AISD?
I can start it, or you can start it, I'll come after you.
So I did want to let Trustee Boswell go ahead and respond to that real quick, and then we'll.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Mr. Cantu, I think it's also very important to know that this bond is about making sure our families, our teachers, our students, everyone who works in our buildings, spends time in our building, making sure they are safe, and also making sure that people feel safe in their buildings. People need to be able to go to school, send their children, be in a workplace that feels safe and secure as well. And so I think that the fact of the work that's being done is important, and the emotional day-to-day impact that it's going to have on letting people focus on education when they're in the buildings, not worrying about other things, is also profoundly important.
To the question about the safety audits, we did open up the year with our principals conducting safety audits throughout each and every building to try to find out, like, again, where do we have weaknesses, where do we have repairs that need to be addressed. In terms of status, I know Mrs. Gura can speak to that, but we opened up the year with every principal conducting those safety audits throughout each and every building that they lead.
Yeah, so we're going to have a conversation this afternoon with our safety security committee, but I can tell you the assessments have gone very well. They're complete. It's an assessment of all exterior doors, door frames, locking hardware. We've modified our systems to allow easy identification and also promotion of anything that is related to security safety deficiency, so that we can get our teams out there to make that repair. But generally speaking, it has gone very well. We're in a very good place, but those details haven't been shared until we have our meeting later this afternoon.
And indoor and inside classroom doors, were that included?
Yes. It's actually every door on a campus. The assessments are every door, so what we provided to all of our campuses were floor plans, developed strategies to get through all of the assessments. It was supported by the superintendent's office and operations, of course. And again, it's a big effort. It's going to continue throughout the year as required by TEA. We'll have to have weekly inspections as well. And so all of that's coming together, and we're well positioned to start the year safely and in a great way.
Can you speak specifically to Prop B and technology upgrades and what that'll entail?
George is not here.
Yeah, so there are a variety of things within the technology budget. There are devices for students and staff. We have infrastructure upgrades. One of the things that's often hard to quantify is the cost of actually supporting all of the technology, right? The cabling, the network. And so there are line items in the budget for technology network upgrades. One of the things that's wonderful about this bond program, however, is that each modernized facility actually includes within it all of the technology requirements. And so through our process, as we added modernization projects, we're able to reduce some of the burden on the technology budget. There are a variety of line items in there. I don't have all the details behind it, but I can tell you with certainty that it does include devices for teachers and staff. It includes IT infrastructure for the entire system, as well as security system upgrades.
Could you speak, I think you were talking about how the bond issue will help minimize costs, that could be used for teachers and staff. And can you talk about how you're starting the year with your staffing situation and how you plan to deal with all the maybe teacher vacancies that we heard about?
Sure. So teacher vacancies, of course, it's a challenge for everybody right now, not just AISD, but throughout the state. And so right now where we are, we still have some significant gaps that we have to close. And so even as we speak now, our human capital team is working, well into the late night, as well as the weekends, to process as many applicants as we can. So I had some good news the other day in terms of potentially cutting that number in half. I need to go back and firm up the details, and so I don't have an exact number right now. But again, our team is committed to put in all of the work that we need to close those gaps. And so, but those gaps still do exist in terms of us needing teachers. I've been making that plea as I've gone throughout the city in terms of substitutes, support in other areas. We do need staff, we do need support. And so if you have some time, if you have a degree, know that we can set you up and prepare you to help meet some of the needs that we may have within Austin ISD.
And just one more time, so to make sure that I got it on my recording here. Talk again about how some items that normally might appear on the normal budget are in bonds, because that's how we're going to be able to keep the money here in Austin.
So let me start, but I'll defer to Ed here. Because of recapture, we're sending about over half of our entire budget that we collect in our tax revenues to the state of Texas. When you have a bond program, you're actually using the interest and sinking tax rate side of it, which allows you by law to keep 100% of it here. So I think one of the things that's a really big theme that you will hear in different ways from the board is we want to make sure we keep 100% or as most of our money here locally for our students, our teachers, and our facilities. And if we do that, like maintenance costs, like you were talking about modernization in our facilities, so that reduces the amount of maintenance dollars that we use on the other side of the budget. So that will free up that money to make sure that we're investing in our people. And I'd be remiss if I didn't add or just add my words of support and the board support for what Dr. Mays just mentioned. If you are someone who has a degree and wants to be a teacher or substitute teacher, you should get every single one of these cell phone numbers up here, because any one of us would want to talk to you about how you can serve our students.
And if I may say one thing about funding before that, I think it's also very important to know we live in a state that chooses to chronically underfund our public education system. We live in a state that is the bottom 10 in per student funding, and we live in a city that highly values education. And this bond offers voters, if they so choose, a way to keep more money here to invest more in our students in a different way.
So when the question was, as far as how much money will this bond save us and really open up and allow us to use on the operating side, we do know from the data from the 2017 bond program, that program through the modernization of those facilities saved us over $4 million in utilities. And so that's a data point that we know. So as we continue to modernize these buildings with the 2022 bond, if it passes, we do know that those additional savings in utilities would be in excess of millions of dollars that we can now make more and prioritize for teacher pay raises, for staff raises, and retention of our staff.
I'll answer that quick. So, yeah, so the way we think about it is this, right? There are really three buckets of money that we can recover by way of a modernization. The first is utility costs. You heard our CFO talk about the reduction in utility costs over the last 4 years, $4 million, right? So that's year over year. And then we also have cost avoidance. So whenever something breaks, HVAC system goes down, or we have a water leak, we don't have bond dollars to pay for that. So I have to go to Ed, our CFO, and ask to get money out of our general operating budget to pay for it. That's the same budget that pays for teacher salaries and programming. Last year, that amount was $12 million. We also think about these larger kind of systems that fail, and we know when they will fail, like HVAC systems, plumbing systems, and so that's a cost avoidance, and that's what we call deferred maintenance. And so on an annual basis, you can expect us to save, I would say, between $18 and $20 million. Again, that would be once these schools are delivered. Right now, we're currently in our current state. We'll do about a year and a half of procurement, design, construction will begin. But as these schools come online, you'll see a significant reduction on the general operating budget, and also a reduction in future cost expenditures. Because once you rebuild a school, all the existing systems that are in dire need of repair but have been band-aided together go away, right? We essentially get to reset.
So how soon would we see teacher and staff pay raises then?
So we have, as a school district, committed to be very competitive with not only teacher pay, but staff pay throughout the district. And that's because the cost of living in Austin continues to escalate. So our goal as a district, as a school board, is over the next 2 years, we want to be the highest paying district in Central Texas. So those movements and that process is already ongoing. And so we're not going to wait for the bond program to be over to begin addressing those needs. We will address them starting with this next school year.
Just last, can someone speak just to the quality that this would do for the educational experience of the student to have these benefits? Because, we get a new iPhone every year. They're used to digital advances. They're used to different things. What will this do to their career path, not only in high school, elementary, but just in life general?
So I'll start, and then it looks like Trustee Singh is ready to come up here. I think that when we talk about some of the pieces that are in this bond, we're really talking about instilling pride in our students. We know that this bond is going to, again, impact our most marginalized communities. And so when you think about some of those aging facilities, if you hadn't followed some of the news stories, check out some of our fields, some of our tracks. And when you think about, the potential of students, running on new fields, running on new tracks, walking into new classrooms, not to mention the bare minimum, air conditioning is working. It's a cool building. Just a wonderful experience, new furniture. Those are opportunities for, again, not just students, but also teachers. When we talk about teachers and faculty staff walking into the building, those are opportunities to build pride and for, again, students to have a wonderful daily experience. I know Trustee Singh wanted to build on that, so I'll step back from that.
I think you pretty much covered it, Dr. Mays. But this bond really it's not about people or buildings. It's really about our belief in the public education system in Texas and what our children deserve. And so truly, I think what this is going to look like day to day, it could mean a student has a teacher now because we have been able to attract more teachers because the building is better and high functioning. It means a student can be in a classroom where they're not shouting over each other because the air conditioning is so loud. It means that a student will be able to fill out college applications or internship applications from home because they have a one-on-one device that is connected that has a reliable internet connection. It means that a student has access to a career and technical education program in a number of fields: automotive, pharmacy tech, cybersecurity. There's like 15 other ones, but there's a significant investment in infrastructure to support these career pathway programs, to support one of the best goals I think we as a board adopted in the past year, which was ensuring that a much higher percentage of our graduates attain post-secondary education or a post-secondary industry certification or a dual, an associate's degree from our partner ACC by the time they graduate from college. So this bond will definitely help us set that high bar and achieve it, and that really has a cascading effect throughout the whole system. The other thing I want to mention is to kind of carry off of what Trustee Boswell had talked about is with Texas investing so little in public education, This bond is really such a great opportunity for our district to continue going above and beyond. I think the basic allotment is about $6,160 a year to educate a child. Okay, that's what we get back from the state. A little bit more if that child has different special needs. But in AISD, we go way beyond the bare minimum of what students need to succeed. We invested in full-day pre-K way before it was required by the state. We invest in dual language programs that go far beyond what's required by the state. And as you walk around Travis Early College High School, you'll see an abundance of opportunities for students that go far beyond like the regular required curriculum. All that costs money, and bottom line is this bond is going to help us continue this path of excellence for our students. Thank you.
Last question? Boy, that could have been.
Thank you all for coming out. Oh, we do have one? Oh.
Is anything being done to get us out of recapture?
Yes. As a board, one of our roles is to adopt legislative priorities and to advocate as a community, as a board, and with other districts across the state. So we adopted in June legislative priorities related to finance. And what we stated in those priorities is that as a community, as a board, we believe that recapture has a place in our state to make sure that every student in the state has what they need to learn, but that the recapture system is out of balance, that it's not working as it was intended. And so the need is for recapture reform, and the even more important need, those $830 million don't come back into Austin ISD's pocket if recapture changes. The state puts a cap on what districts are allowed to spend, and what we're advocating for above all is an increase to the basic allotment statewide for a deeper investment in public education funding at the state level. And I would love to talk with you afterward and bring you into that conversation if you're interested.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Ramos.